Today we found out that our well isn't deep enough, or they think it's not deep enough. And if that's the case, well, without a reliable water source, that can affect a lot of things. It can affect the cost. It can affect how much water is going into the house. And it can affect whether or not we can live in the house long term. Now, we do have a few options, but I'm just not sure which way to go yet. So we're running through some different ideas, and I'll run them by you and see what you think. But, as far as where we're at with the house right now, so the engineer said that the long span roofing will be coming in this week, and we should be able to finish it by next week. Now, we met with our solar guy yesterday, and we signed our contract. And I'll tell you a little bit about how that contract was structured. But he met with the engineer so that they could coordinate when the house is done, then they can start putting in the panels. They can do the bracing for the panels. And then when the wall inside of the utility room is done, then they can go in and they can put in the inverter and they can put in the battery and they can finish up. But how that works, just so you know, is we sign the contract and we put 10% down. And this is just the way you should structure, I think, most of these contracts. So we put 10% down, and then when they bring in all the materials, then we'll pay another 50%. And then when they finish the whole project, then we'll pay that last 40%. So we're looking at that probably being done in about a month, which is good news because we feel good about having that part done. Now, as far as the fence contractor goes, well, we've had so many comments, and I gotta say, I didn't get a chance to respond to all those comments, but I got like over 94 comments. I just couldn't answer them all. So, and here's another thing, and I just want to say thank you for all those comments. And I also want to say that most everybody was really nice. They were so kind. And the interesting thing about that is, and I got to say this, that if we all looked out for each other like you guys are looking out for me, I have to say that, this world would just be such a better place. So this one gentleman, he took the time to send me an email with his concerns. And in those concerns, he pointed out on our windows, he pointed out that there weren't any lintel bars across the top or on the sides of the windows. Now, what those are, now in the West, we would put headers around the windows for the strength to strengthen the window. Here, when you're working with concrete, you're putting in lintel bars, which are metal, and they go across the top and down the side. And so I got a hold of the engineer yesterday, and I asked him, I said, hey, what's going on with that? And he says, no, don't worry, we are putting in the lintel bars. And then the subscriber, he pointed out that if you look at the windows, a few of them, they're jagged like this. They're jagged like this. And he said that he really was worried that there is such a gap that would really compromise the integrity of that window because they'd have to put so much plaster to fill in those jagged edges. And so I brought that up to the engineer too, and he said, well, don't worry about that because the opening is more narrow right now than the actual window is. So they'll be coming in, they'll be cutting those out so that the window will fit in and it won't be all jagged like that. So shout out to Victor. Thank you, Victor, for taking and being so kind and so caring. I can't tell you how much that means to us. Now, where am I at here? So that's, the fence contractor. So what we've decided with that, and this again is because of all the comments. And there, like I said, there was negative comments and there's positive comments and there's just comments that people are concerned about things. And I'll get to those here in just a second. But as far as the fence contractor goes, yes, we do agree that this is the way walls are done here in the Philippines. So we'll keep an eye on it. They have reached the height of the walls, all except for that back area because they're still keeping that open because they have to dig the pool yet. So everywhere else around the perimeter of the land, they've finished the walls, except they have to put in the railings yet. So that'll be happening soon. They have a few columns yet to finish up. So we'll just let that go ahead. But as far as having him do the driveway, no, we're not going to let him do it. And this came from, again, from one of the comments. Now, when we vetted out our engineer, we looked at some of his prior work. And that way we had an idea of whether or not he was any good at what he does. And that I was reminded about that in the comments. And someone said, hey, just check out some of this guy's previous work as far as doing concrete work, driveways. And so we asked him about that. He hasn't done any driveways. So yeah, we won't be asking him to do our driveways. We'll find someone else to do that. Now back into the comments, and I appreciate the comments and even the negative ones because there are so many people who are concerned about coming here to the Philippines and building a house, being ripped off by the contractor, or, building a house for the Filipina because they think they're Filipinos, just going to, kick them out and then they've wasted all their money. And so I'm going to address that one first. So look at guys, if you have a relationship with your Filipina, you don't trust her, then you got to work on that part of the relationship before you even think about building a house. If you don't trust your wife. Now, my wife, she's been with me we've been married for almost 18 years. We were in the United States for 16 years. If she wanted to leave me, she could have found someone more handsome than me a long time ago, but she didn't. She stuck with this ugly mug and, we've been together. We're happy. We're actually really happy together. So that's not an issue. You have to work that part out yourself. And if you don't trust your spouse, then that's a whole different issue, right? But I trust my wife, so building here makes sense. And it makes sense in a lot of ways because financially it just sets us up. And there's no getting around the fact that if you buy your house and you pay for it in full, you don't have a mortgage to pay. If you put in solar, you're going to do much better. Now, the other one is about, you have to be a contractor and do the work yourself, let me say this to you here. If all you have is like $40,000, $20, $30, $40,000 to come here and build a home, yeah, you're going to be a lot better off if you're an engineer, you're a contractor. And, you can go ahead and you can stand out in this 96-degree weather and you can try to source out your materials. You can keep trying to find, quality workers, and that's your gig. You can do that. But my point that I'm trying to teach is that you don't have to be an engineer. You don't have to be a contractor. Yes, you can come here and you can do a good build without being ripped off. And my house is proof of that. And you can trust someone else to do the work for you so you don't have to be standing out in that hot weather at 67 years old and trying to do all this work yourself. So if you have a nest egg, if you have $80,000 or more to build a home, guys, you can you can build your little oasis for that amount of money. And that's what I'm trying to tell you. If you've got a little nest egg, yes, you can do it. No, you're not going to own your land, and that's fine. But in another video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the different types of options you have in order to be able to build here, because there are other options, and I'll tell you about that in another bill. But going back to the water source now, here's a video of my wife, and she's trying to pump out the water. And if you see, it's just a trickle. It's not a lot coming out. And so this is what I found out about that. Here in the Philippines, a deep well is about 60 feet deep. And yeah, 60 feet deep. Once you reach 60 feet, you should be in deep well territory. Now, our contractor who put in our well, he did 18 meters, and 18 meters is 59 and a half feet. It's a half a foot above the deep well territory. So, we have a couple of options now. We can go deeper, or we can work on some sort of a storage system. And we're leaning towards going deeper, putting in a couple of more bars and going down to about 100 feet. Just not quite sure which way to go yet. So, guys, if you have any thoughts on this, put them in the comments below and let me know what you think. And if you got anything out of this video, guys, hit like and subscribe and stay tuned for the next one. Bye.